The Joe Rogan Experience.
So let's get to this flower of life, because that's sort of the beginning of this exploration. Also,
but can you correct what he said about one time? What about an action and a reaction?
So I was trying to get to them. Do you have a problem with the way we do addition? I understand
the addition, the subtraction, and division is all right. Beyond the only problems I have is dividing by. You can't divide by 0, but you can multiply by 0. And if division is the inverse operation of multiplication, then you should be able to divide by it. But if you divide by 0, you end up with an infinity. And there was a great system put together by Marco Rodin, the vortexual based math system, where they remove the 0, but it's able to predict all the things necessary. It was 100% precise as a model, but it's been abandoned, or it's been relegated to the outskirts.
Don't know that. We do things where sometimes we can divide by 0. We have concepts like the pointed infinity, where you can complete a structure that the original structure can't accommodate a problem, an operation, but you can complete it to a larger system in which that thing does become sensible. So as an example of the 1 times 1, assume that Terrence doesn't have a big problem with addition, because addition doesn't have the division by 0 problem. Okay. It is the case that if you take any 2 numbers, A and B, 2 real numbers, right, or make them positive, and take the natural logs of those 2 numbers and add those together. Then you take the exponent of that. So we haven't done a times operation at all.
Right.
The exponential of the ln of A plus ln of B. That is equal to the A to A times B. In other words, addition and multiplication are what we would say is isomorphic, or an ordinary person would say exactly the same thing. So in other words, if you don't allow me multiplication, but you would allow me, because you like waves, so with waves you need exponentials and you need natural logarithms, there's no way of changing the law of multiplication and accepting the law of addition, because they're the same system.
The multiplication should initially started as exaggerated addition. That was the whole point of it.
Well, the precise statement would be that the positive real numbers under multiplication, with the identity element being the multiplicative identity being 1, are isomorphic to the total real numbers under addition, with the additive identity being 0. And the natural logarithm and exponential are group homomorphisms that connect the two, with one being the other's inverse. So by the principle of explosion, the reason that people are in part going to freak out about your stuff is that we have a vulnerability. And that vulnerability says that from a single contradiction, if you can sneak one contradiction through TSA, the entire airport collapses. Everything that we do just is destroyed. And so the idea is that the security on mathematics and physics and the physical sciences is extraordinary for outside ideas, because the first contradiction in the unity of knowledge destroys all of it. If you've ever seen one of these warehouse racking collapses, where some forklift guy hits some strut and the entire warehouse goes, that's what you're dealing with the principle of explosion.
And that's the problems with the identity principle that they've been trying to work on for years. For years, Norman J. Wildberger talks about it. It is because you have to cancel conservation of energy, and you have to cancel the action and reactionary laws in order for 1 times 1. Now, I understand you're seeing one time, but because of the associative law that says if A and B are both positive integers, then A is to be added to itself. In multiplication, A is to be added to itself as many units as is indicated by B.
Well, hang on there. If I change the word itself to the word 0, which you're going to say there is no 0.
Why do I say there's no 0?
Because you have, this is why I keep trying to get back to what I understand of Terrence's underlying metaphysics.
No, what I'm saying
is
that to say 0 is supposed to represent no thing. Nothing whatsoever. But they have zero as a number, set up as a number. But to say no thing, your brain creates a chemical structure even in saying nothing. So there is what I'm saying philosophically.
There's a difference between the empty set
and
and
empty set.
zero.
That's the difference.
Right? So if I say to you, Terrence, what is the collection of kittens that you have sold to North Korea to be used for spare parts? You would say, it's the empty set. I've never sold a kitten.
Yeah,
I say,
nothing.
hey, Terrence, what is the number of kittens that you've sold for the internal organs to North Korea? You would say 0. So
Correct.
0 is
I would say none. Yeah,
That's
zero.
right. So there is a 0.
But to multiply something by the nothing, to multiply something by nothing, don't they have to be dimensionally equal in order to multiply? Like you can't multiply a human by an ant because they're not dimensionally equal.
Well, if there was a thing called a human ant, no, that was your point about dollars, right?
Yes.
What dollar times a dollar? That was a problem.
That's the Dewey
people,
Decimal System.
It's
That's
not
the problem
Dewey
with
Decimal.
No, the problem comes up with the Dewey Decimal System. Why a dollar times a dollar can be different values based on different currencies. That was the point of that. I was pointing out, hey, the Dewey Decimal System is
Terrence
whack.
Terrence makes a correct point that we say 1 times 1 equals 1, but if you say a dollar times a dollar is not a sensible thing unless a dollar squared is a unit that you can interpret. Right?
Well,
that was your point about dimensionality.
Right. Now, the moment, what is a dollar squared? What does a
don't
dollar
know what that
squared
means.
become? But since the dollar is no longer based on a hard asset, it's no longer gold, it's just an integer. It's just an integer in a computer being multiplied.
It's a unit of account.
It's a unit of account, but it's an integer that's still now you're able to multiply it under different currencies. States are not allowed to print dollars, but states are allowed to print as much change. So who's to say that the state isn't saying, okay, we're going to print.
We can get into seigniorage, which is the concept of theft that it occurs when either the Fed or a counterfeiter creates more script, thereby devaluing, increasing the unit. The number of units that are in circulation decreases the value per unit.
Right.
But my claim is you're going to do a series of things. Like I've watched how you deal with people in interaction. And you've created an incredible effect. Rick Rubin, the hip hop producer.
Yeah, he did my album.
Okay, well that makes some sense because the first thing that happens is I'm awakened by a message from Rick Rubin. He's like, "How come you can't explain physics the way Terrence Howard explains? That's not a way to get on my good side at 8 o'clock in the morning."
Yeah, but he's probably baiting you.
What?
Rick's
he's
probably
always baiting.
He's the best.
He's the best.
I'm trying to explain physics the way you explain it.
Well, okay.